Hi, so in this MuseumIndex Plus video we're going to look at procedure records now. So up to now we've been dealing with the catalogue records that describe the objects in the collection. Now we're going to look at the procedures that you can create. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to open up the context panel on the left here. We looked briefly at this at the introductory video, so it gives an overview of the objects in the collection by department. So, for example, we can find all the ceramics records, all the furniture and woodwork records, just by double-clicking on entries in the tree there. But now we're going to look at the procedure panel. Now here, this is a list of the sort of things that procedures cover. Most of these are standard spectrum procedures. I'm using the Victoria and Albert Museum's training database here, so they've extended that with some variations of their own on those procedures. We also have some workflow procedures which I'll cover in another video. So for now, what I'll do for starters, we'll look at some acquisition procedures as an example. Let's just close that panel up again. So let me just see if I can find a useful example here. If we look at one of these acquisitions, maybe this is quite a good example, I think, somewhere here. Yeah, this is a good one. So what we can see on the left here is information about the acquisition itself, so the date of the accession, the method for the acquisition. That might be a gift or a purchase, or in this case some kind of hybrid arrangement. Notes to do with terms and conditions, the justification for the acquisition, why the museum is acquiring these objects, who they were acquired from, various pieces of information about the acquisition. And then on the right you can see a list of the objects that were acquired. We can see those as a summary listing like this, or as a set of thumbnails. And if I click on any one of those items, we call these governed items. They're governed by the procedure. So if we click on this item here, for example, then that will take me to the set of 4 records that describing the objects in the acquisition. And here's this particular object. You can see at the top here the title bar, the banner, if you like, has changed slightly. So as well as the information about the object we're currently looking at, there's also a record of the acquisition that we're looking at this object in the context of this acquisition. And then I can click back here to go back to the procedure record. We could look at a few other examples. Here's another acquisition, a gift, 2 chairs. And acquisition records, you can search for those in exactly the same way as you would search for objects. So for example, if we bring up a search screen here, and let's search for acquisitions, and this will produce me a search form. We've got the usual general search fields, and if I go into the acquisition section, I could, for example, search for all of my gifts, all the acquisitions that were a gift to the museum, and that will bring back a search result. In this case, we've got 202 acquisitions that were gifts. And again, each one, a lot of these are just a gift of a single item. There's a good example of a bunch of items. There's no photography. A gift of a set of prints. So you can see acquisitions, and procedures in general, you can search for them in exactly the same way you would objects, and you can edit the information. You can click on a section heading to edit that information. Another example of where we use procedures, if we open up the context panel again, amongst the various procedure types, there's use of collections, which is a fairly sort of general purpose spectrum procedure, which among other things covers exhibitions. So here, let's go back to the list of governed items. So if we can find a good example again, here's a nice one. So this was an exhibition at the Millennium Galleries. We have a start date and an end date. and these are the objects that appeared in that exhibition. And we have a whole series of exhibitions as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to show you how you'd go about creating a procedure record. In this case, I'm going to use of collections to describe a new exhibition. So what we can do, we'll do it from the home screen again. I'll go back here and we can start a new procedure. I'm going to start a use of collections procedure. So what that'll do, it will create me a new use of collections procedure record. I can say in this case, because use of collections covers a number of different purposes, including research and themes for use on the website and general groupings of objects, here we're going to create an exhibition. I can fill in the title explicitly, but it will calculate it from the title of the exhibition itself, which I'll fill in here. Let's just resize this a bit to get rid of these scroll bars. So what we'll do, we'll create an exhibition called, well, let's say we're going to have 17th century chairs. Oops. Actually, let's make it more general purpose. That will have 17th century furniture. And the venue, let's suppose we're exhibiting at the Tate Gallery in London. As we've seen before, this field is controlled by the organisation authorities, so we have an authority record already for the Tate Gallery. So we just link to that, and we'll give it a start date of, let's suppose that the exhibition is going to start on the 1st of December 2015 and run to the 20th of December 2015. That's about all I need to say for now. This group of fields, you can see the venue and the dates, they repeat. So in theory, I could have added multiple venues, like a travelling exhibition, different venues on different dates. So here's my exhibition, my use of collections procedure. Currently, I have no governed items. So now what I need to do is add some governed items to this record. In other words, decide which objects are going to be in my procedure. So I click this button here. You can start creating new items at this point, so if these objects maybe weren't in your collection and were borrowed from somebody else, you might catalogue them at this stage. I'm actually going to find my existing items, which are objects. So what that will do, does two things. It basically moves the procedure that I'm dealing with into a pop-up window, which I can move around the screen here. And then it brings up an object search screen, so I can find the objects I'm interested in. So what I'm going to do, I'll just minimize this window for a second while I search for my objects. So I'm going to search, we called our exhibition 17th century furniture, so we'll search for object production date 17th century. And we'll start off by searching, what we'll do is we'll search in the object name field for furniture. I've got no matches on that. Let's see if we can do a thesaurus search. Okay, I suspected I might not have a very general furniture search, but let's just search for chairs in general. Pretty sure we've got some chairs somewhere. Let's just do a free text search. I think some of these object names haven't been categorized against the AAT at this point. So we'll just do a free text search for chair, which should bring back a few records. Okay, great. So we've got 150 chair records here. So I'm just going to mark a few records that I want to include in my exhibition. So we'll have this one here. This one, and one more. Let's have this one. So you can see up here I've got 6 records marked. What I can then do, I can use this button on the toolbar just to bring my procedure back up. And to add those objects to the procedure, I just drag and drop them from the summary into this window here, and that will add those 6 objects to the procedure. I could now go back if I wanted to and do a different search. So if I go back to my search screen, while I'm doing that, I'll minimize this window again, and let's do a search for table. And here we'll get a few more records describing tables for the furniture collection, among some other things. We'll have this one, and got a bit of a mixture of things here, but hopefully I can find a few more things that I want to include. We'll have these two. Then I just bring the procedure back up again and add those to the procedure as well. There's another drag and drop. So there we go, that's the object I want to include in my procedure. I can switch that between a summary listing and a thumbnail listing. And when I'm happy, I just click here, and that takes me back to my procedure record. There's my 17th century furniture exhibition record, a start and end date, and a list of objects in that procedure. And then again, if I click on any one of these, when we now look at these objects, if we go over here to the Journal tab, which again I think we've briefly covered in the introductory video, this shows a list of all the procedures that that this particular object has been involved in. So you can see they're now all tied into my 17th century furniture exhibition. This recording has also been involved in another exhibition called Sit Down Seating for Kids in 2010. And the object was formally acquired in March 2010 following that exhibition. There is an object, a facility, I haven't used it here, to group your procedures by a project. So you can assign a project to a particular procedure, and then you can see all the procedures that were involved for any given project. And then we are back at our procedure record. So I think that concludes this overview of procedure records. In a future video, we'll look at a more streamlined way of doing that using workflow. But for now, thank you.